We have play from all 50 states and 10 to 15 countries annually that come to Alabama to play golf. Last year, even with the legislature closed for 9 months, we played 712,000 rounds. And if you throw Lakewood in there, we were about 760. You think of that, 760,000 rounds of golf in Alabama, and a great deal of that is travel play. It's phenomenal, but I think it's his commitment to the properties because they're in good condition.
Welcome back to the Cart Barn, where we talk golf and the people who play it, the places that make the game special, especially right here in Alabama.
And today we're joined by Mike Beverly, President and CEO of Sunbelt Corporation, which operates the Robert Trent Jones Golf Trail. Mike was recently named the 2025 PGA Professional of the Year for the Alabama Northwest Florida section, and he oversees one of the most unique golf operations anywhere in the world.
The trail has become one of the biggest drivers of golf tourism in the country, with players traveling from all 50 states and multiple countries to experience it. We're talking about the vision behind the trail, how it operates at scale, and what the future looks like for golf in Alabama. We're joined by the President and CEO of Sunbelt Golf and the 2025 PGA Professional of the Year for the section, Mike Beverly. Mike, welcome to the Cart Barn.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah.
Great. We've wanted to have you on for a while now, Mike, talk about all things Robert Trent Jones Golf Trail. But before we start, you've had quite a good career in the golf business. Why don't you jump into your background a little bit and how you ended up in your current position?
Yeah, I played golf in college at Marshall University, and I got my degree in psychology, was working in that the last couple of years while I was finishing up, and I switched majors 3 or 4 times and worked. It took me 5 years, and when I got done, I was like, man, I got to get my master's and maybe my doctorate to make any money in that field. So I was kind of burnt out. I was like, man, I'm not ready to go right into master's program. So I went to Hilton Head and got started in the golf business. The guy that I played high school golf against and went to Marshall, went down there. And so I went down and stayed with him. And while I got down there, I was like, man, I really kind of like the golf business. And I watched my dad work hard. He was an engineer with a telephone company and always brought blueprints home, and construction engineer, worked in the evenings. So, man, if I'm going to work hard, I just want to do something I enjoy. So I kind of decided down there, I think I'm going to give the golf business a try, and just stayed in it ever since. So moved all over the country for quite a while, just trying to keep advancing my career, and then ended up down here with the trail in December of 2006 and hitting 20 years this year.
Before we go any further, you cannot psychoanalyze Chris or myself during the remainder of this podcast.
Yeah, I only know enough to be dangerous. Now, it has come in handy with golfers, instruction, and 1,300 employees, having a little bit of a psych background. So,
yeah.
So, was obviously you're not a native Alabamian, but when you got to Alabama, what did you find, and what was kind of the appeal of going to Montgomery or at Prattville and becoming the director of golf there?
Yeah, interesting story. My family had relocated down here after time, so it kind of been like second home. I had an uncle who was a pastor in Montgomery. My sister's 4 years older than me. She ended up moving down here with him, and she relocated to Montgomery. And then my brother, I have a twin, Tim, and I spent a summer with her and worked. I worked in one of the factories up at Lagoon Park during the summer. I think it was my freshman year of college, I think it was between my senior year and freshman year. And he ended up meeting his future wife. So after college, he moved down, and they had the first grandkids that were about 3 weeks apart. And so my dad kind of early retired at 58 or 9, then they moved down. So everyone had gotten down to Alabama, and I was bouncing all over the place in the golf business and visiting a couple of times a year. And then my good friend, John Cannon, who was president of the the trail before me, and he opened Capitol Hill. He ended up opening Capitol Hill, and we worked together in Hilton Head, have been best friends, gosh, ever since. And he eventually became president, and then he started calling me to come down and work with him. And it's been the best job I've ever had. Truly amazed at the state. Really, when I started visiting the first time and going to the trail sites, the topography of the state, just how unique. We ride it in all our foothills in the Appalachians, where I'm sitting today, and Huntsville and the mountains in the background remind me of southern West Virginia a little bit, and bent grass greens where I grew up on. And then, you go all the way through the state. I was amazed the first few times I went to Birmingham and how hilly it was, and looking at some houses and stuff there. And then I ended up in Montgomery, obviously around the river. And then you go all the way to the coast in Mobile, or just Lakewood and Magnolia Grove. It's truly an amazing golf trail, because the topography at every location is so different, and it just allows for, even though you have one designer, the golf courses are all completely different, have their own personalities.
Yeah, when you look at the scope of the trail, and you weren't here for when it opened up back in '92, but can you imagine the construction all going on at so many sites at one time, and coming up with the product?
I can. The vision itself from Dr. Bronner to do this, we all know the story back to Shoal Creek, and his frustrations with trying to advance the state and build a strong retirement systems. And then the idea, just out of his passion for the game, to think of a golf trail to get people to come to the state and spend time, and just quit using 65 as a corridor to get to the coast. Maybe spend a night at an exit and eat some fast food and, a hotel. And to let them see what Alabama, the vision of the trail was to get them to go all over the state, even the smaller communities where we've got some sites, and see the beauty of the state. And it's been a home run, I think. Really, tourism dollars have grown, gosh, I think from 1.8 billion to around 24 billion. It's obviously not all the trail, but I think it's brought eyes on the state and onto the coast, and Huntsville, everything that we have to offer in the state of Alabama. And that was his goal. Just like, we've got a lot to offer. We've got to give people a reason to come here and spend some time, not just pass through.
Mm-hmm.
No, I've been dabbling in some renovation work the last 6 years. We've done quite a bit. We've done some type of renovation every year since '05 on the trail. And, doing renovation after the fact is a lot different than building. I'm amazed. I worked at Capitol Hill during some floods with the judge, and you really see the topo and the thought process that goes in. Oh, man, now I know why that green's pushed up so much. I can't imagine taking a blank slate like that site that had farmland at the center that was completely flat, and turning that into a link-style golf course with 140 pot bunkers, mobiles, mounds, the legislator running the ridge line, and then a little bit through the swamp, and then the judge down by the river and swampland, and turn that from nothing into what it is. It's true. The vision to be able to do that from an architectural perspective is unbelievable, and they did a tremendous job. National Press helped design the golf courses with Roger. Trent Jones Sr. was on some sites. When I think Capitol Hill he was very late in life there, and almost wheelchair bound, I think. But he was at the first tee at the judge and saw the property. But Roger was really doing the work then under his firm. But Bobby would be another one. He's got some great stories. The staging the Capitol Hill story and the judge, and what they were having to do for permitting and all that. It was very interesting how the logistics worked out there.
Yeah. Well, running one golf course is challenging enough, but the trail operates courses across the whole state. And you being at the head of this, what's the biggest operational challenges and opportunities at that scale?
I think it's always people. That's your best asset, and your probably your biggest struggle. We have over 1,300 employees, and at each site you've got running an operation. Our director of golf is really a general manager, so you're running a golf tee times facilities, right? You're some instruction. You got a retail business in the golf shop. You're responsible for a food and beverage outlet, and then then you're coordinating with we call them kind of the mom and pop of the facility, the director of golf, the director of maintenance. They're equals. And, I always joke when I was at Capitol, I try to make the money so Robert Wingo could spend it on the golf courses. But that partnership of, giving them the time that they need. You're trying to be as busy as you can and get shotguns out at 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, but they've got to top dress greens and spray rough. And so you got to really communicate and work well together. It's my first year going to the corporate office was late 19. So I walk into point of sale transition. That was about halfway through, which is very complicated on our end because we share all of our information. Our customers are one customer. You can go to any trail site, so your loyalty points, your gift cards, your rain checks. So there's bigger companies like Troon and Invited that have, multiple hundred golf courses, but most of them are standalone 18 holes. Troon has a loyalty program, but it's kind of a browser based. It's not like per transaction like us. You get dollar for dollar in food and beverage and 50 points around. And if you get a gift card in Greenville and you drive an hour to Prattville, it needs to be available immediately. And so we're fully integrated. So it's a complicated build. So I kind of inherited that. And then right into COVID, I went to the PGA show in January and the world's shutting down. And so that was an interesting year. And then, the Ross Bridge green issue we had there, that was kind of my first year. And then, it was interesting to walk into it and just traveling the trail from, when I was a director of Capitol, it was the busiest site. So I didn't get to travel to the sites a lot. You get one day off a week sometimes. And I have wife and kids and it's like, I'm not going to go somewhere else and play golf. I'm going to stay home with my family. Or if I did play golf, I'd just play at home, So just getting to travel all of them and really appreciate them that first year or two, I was like, man, I even had a greater appreciation of how special it is and each location is, But I'd say food and beverage has always been our greatest challenge in anywhere I've ever been in the industry. There's so many restaurants now, so there's high turnover. We're open every day but Christmas, so everybody wants weekends off, especially when football season rolls around. They either want to watch it on TV or tailgate or go to the games. Well, somebody has to work, right? And if you don't, sometimes they don't get the schedule they want. They just don't show up because there's another restaurant across the street that's so desperate they're going to hire anybody. They're not going to check references and things like that. So I would say that restaurant and then golf course maintenance has been a challenge from time to time. It's gotten a lot better. The golf industry has really been in a boom since COVID, and we've outperformed the industry. We've really had some substantial growth in the last 5-6 years, which has allowed us to do really 4 rounds of almost standard of living increases. Golf business from 6 to 19 when I came to the trail, but nationally was pretty stagnant. The golfer database was declining. The baby boomer generation was a big golfing population, was aging out, and the industry for the longest time, 20 to 40-year-olds were not really growing. We weren't offsetting what was aging out. Or people would start to play and then they wouldn't stick with it. It's expensive, it's hard, and I think family-wise, there's 2 parents working more now than used to be, so it was hard for dad to get away on the weekend as much. So COVID kind of brought that back. People found golf as a safe space. I look back and we kind of laugh at all the stupid things we did with tape on the ground and noodles in the holes and no rakes on the course. Like, it's kind of like, well, if it was that bad, we should have never left our house to begin with. But we did what we had to do to stay open.
Right.
And thank God people realized it was a great place to come and get out. And the great thing is they've stuck with it, and it's still growing, I think. And social media has done a tremendous job, I think, of the good golf and Instagram feeds and influencers you see, I think have really talked to that younger generation and let them know that golf can be a fun, cool, recreational sport. It's not as stuffy. And then golf's evolved, GPS with a little Bluetooth music, and we control the volume. Like, that doesn't bother me. I don't want to blaring across the golf course, but the fact that guys can listen to a ball game while they play golf now, gets them out on a Saturday.
Yeah.
With their favorite team or something. So it's really kind of been a crazy run the last 5-6 years. Golf's in a great spot right now.
Yes, it is.
I know every time I've talked with you, kind of at the end of your fiscal year, you've talked about record-setting numbers. What's the challenge? Because so many destinations have opened up since the start of the trail. You know, Bandon Dunes, you got Stream Song, places like that are attracting a lot of the golfers. How are you guys able to stay relevant?
Well, Dr. Bronner's asked some good questions, during our financial reviews quarterly. Just he's amazed at our growth. And then, I kind of show him some comparative to National Golf Foundation and what the industry's doing. And, he's like, well, everybody's up, but how are y'all up 8-9% year or after a record year, and everybody else is, starting to flatten out? I was like, well, yeah, I'm kissing your butt a little bit, but to be honest, it's a tribute to him because he has always viewed these as assets of the retirement system. So the way he's reinvested in the renovation work, you don't see tired properties when you come to the trail, right? I mean, you don't see broken cart paths. Not that we don't have any. That never stops. Tree roots and things like that grow under them. But we fix them. We renovate bunkers. We renovate greens. Um, our irrigation systems are now 33 years old. So we do valve boxes, control boxes. And now I always call it the vascular system of the golf course. You don't see it. It's there. There are miles and miles of irrigation on the ground. Those are starting to age. So he's allowed us to keep the properties in phenomenal condition. And we've always been known as the greatest value in golf. And you go back to the Wall Street Journal early days, and it's still New York Times. I think we still have that perception. And we've been able to raise rates the last 6 years, particularly on our travel play, to kind of that's a good thing to be known for, but it also means you're probably underpriced, right?
Yeah.
What that's allowed us to do is we have we've got customers who've been coming for 30 years. Almost every year they come to Alabama to play golf. We have play from all 50 states and 10 to 15 countries annually that come to Alabama to play golf. Last year, even with the legislature closed for 9 months, we played 712,000 rounds. And if you throw Lakewood in there, we were about 760. So it's you think of that, 760,000 people, rounds of golf in Alabama. And a great deal of that is travel play. It's a phenomenal deal, but I think it's his commitment to properties has allowed us to stay relevant because they're in good condition. And then we try to do a great job with service, and give the guys a good experience. And John Cannon said in one of my early meetings, we can market the hell out of these properties and get them here, but if they don't have a great experience, the people and their experience is what gets them to come back. So we do work hard on that. We're not perfect at it, but I think we try really hard, and I think it's paid off.
Yeah, it's weird. Some of my friends who play muni golf and they're paying $50-$60 a round. The trail card has gotten them onto y'all's properties, and then you look at rack rate. I think the Shoals is 125. That's you can go to Bandon Dunes and it's 350 or 400 for a round, and your value is so good.
Yeah, from a travel perspective, I think we're still really good, and it's allowed us to raise rates. And our trail card rate we try to bump up. We really have a travel customer, and it's so different from location to location. Dothan down the southeast corner probably gets 4% of their play is travel business. Shoals does better than Hampton Cove. And then, the big four from a travel perspective are Ross Bridge and Oxmoor and Birmingham and Hoover, and then Capitol Hill and Prattville and Auburn and Grand National. So, the center of the state, proximity to bigger airports and bigger cities, right? But the beauty is, and a lot of people now know, they go to Capitol Hills, like, man, Greenville's like the hidden gem of the trail. 45 minutes down the road, you can go down there. It's not as busy, but it might be the best conditioned golf course I've seen over the last 6 years on the trail. And it's just such a good layout. We started doing Korn Ferry qualifying down there the last 2 or 3 years, and they love it. I mean, it's just we don't have a bad property, and that's, I think, the thing. But we've tried to be copied many times, which obviously that's the biggest form of flattery, right? And there's been people try to copy the Audubon Trail, the Bear Trace Trail. Kentucky built a bunch of state parks when I was up there and trying to do a trail. I said, well, everybody has a bunch of golf courses. You can market yourself as a trail. I just went to the PGA show in January, and last year, National Golf Course Owners called me and it's like, hey, would you talk to the folks in Oklahoma? They want to do a golf trail, the lieutenant governor. So I did a phone call with them, and then they decided to go ahead and proceed with that. And I told her, I said, listen, I'm not trying to be arrogant, but we've tried to be copied many times, and there's no one's the same because you're doing it after the fact. We have one owner, one vision, one corporate office, one president, CEO. We have one commitment to conditions and service, right? It's the same everywhere you go. And if you go to a smaller site in a smaller city, Gadsden and Silver Lakes or Cameron Ridge or Dothan, the 36-hole facilities, they are phenomenal golf courses. And Dr. Bronner built the same care and infrastructure at those facilities as we did. There is no fall off. And the thing, like I worked with Indiana, they wanted to do a Pete Dye golf trail. And John and I talked to them years ago. And it's like, the good thing about them is Pete Dye's from Indiana. They call him Purdue Pete. And, they had a bunch of Pete Dye golf courses. Like, well, you got the name recognition and you've got one designer, right? So that is a very good similarity. But after that, you've got 13 different owners, 13 different levels of commitment to service, infrastructure, capital reinvestment into the property, and service levels. And does French Lick Springs, which is a very exclusive high-end resort, want to be marketed with a kind of a mom and pop facility in a smaller community, and that guy goes and has two completely different experiences? It's not the same. We have one call center. You can call us. We're going to book your hotel, your golf. If it rains, we're moving you internally. You don't have to touch anything. So our levels of service are different too. So I just try to explain those differences. Like, you really have a marketing cooperative as a golf trail. And, you're taking products that are already there and banding them together. And that's great. Make people aware of what you have to offer. And, Oklahoma has a lot of casinos, and they're trying to kind of tie it to that. And I think the PGA show, they wanted me to come sit with the lieutenant governor. And he was the closing speaker, and they were kind of talking about the golf trail. They had done a fishing trail, and it had been successful. And now they're trying to do this golf trail. And I was like, I wish you the best. It's a marketing cooperative. You're bringing some brand awareness that you've got 18 or 19 courses that have been there for years. You're just kind of marketing them in a different way. But it's not the same as us.
Yeah. It's, I think the biggest thing, like you mentioned, is they're in competition with each other. This course over here in East Oklahoma wants as much traffic as they can get as the one in West Oklahoma, where you guys, it's all one collaborative effort. It all goes into one pot.
Yeah, that's the deal. It feels like it's raining. It's my last day. We're driving back to Kentucky, so we'll pull up the tee sheets. Like, man, you go an hour and a half north to Birmingham. Looks like you'd be out of the weather. We'll put you down at Oxmoor Valley, at 1 o'clock, and just get in your car and go. They don't have to touch anything. We just do an internal transfer of the funds from one site to the other, but it stays in the company, and we're just trying to make it easy on the customer, and that's the beauty of it. And the business has evolved. The early days with the 7 original sites, there were people traveling from one site to another, like truly traveling the trail. Now I think it's more pod-based. The repeat customers, they've seen a lot of it or all of it, and they'll hit Auburn on the way into Prattville or on the way back out. And they'll hit 1 or 2 sites. But, Prattville having 3 championship courses, you don't have to leave there. And then the same with Auburn with the 2 great champs, and Birmingham and Oxmoor work well together. And we try to market Lakewood and Magnolia together. And then obviously up here, Huntsville and the shows. And that was Doc's vision. Everything is really nothing more than an hour to an hour and a half to one side. So if you want to get in the car and do that, but people don't like, who wants to change hotel rooms and repack every night? So I think it's evolved over time that they kind of hit pods, and one year they might go to Birmingham, the next year they hit Prattville, the next year they hit Auburn, then they go south and things like that. But that's the beauty. The great thing is I see so many repeat customers that they're coming back over and over, and I think that is because of the value and the conditions they see.
Well, and it's almost like a franchise, if you will. The consistency from one venue to the next and the experience, and you kind of touched on it, but you pull up and there's someone there helping you get your stuff out. The conditions are very similar across all of the courses. Goes back to your reinvestment in the infrastructure and the conditions, but it's just very consistent. The experience, the food, It's always good. Just the whole overall experience, no matter where you go. The only difference really is the venue that you're playing at is diverse, but the experience from uh, a consumer standpoint is very consistent.
Yeah, we try hard. We've got a great what we call it, corporate executive team. Scott Gomberg's, Scott was the Grand Nationals director for that's 20 years. He's phenomenal, and great CFO and Landon Shelby and Sherry. I'm give them all shout outs. And human resources, 1,300 employees and 700,000 rounds of golf. You can imagine you've got accidents, insurance, and she's tremendous. And we had Ricky Huey from day one of construction all the way. Ricky retired 15 months ago. But that was a worrisome transition for me because not only when I was coming in, I was replacing John, had been president for 20 years, and John's phenomenal and really smart guy. But he and I did a great transition. He went to chairman. He wasn't traveling as much, but he still lived just not far from the corporate office. So we talked, being best friends, we talked every day anyway. But him helping me navigate through, I was pretty strong operationally, but learning the properties and then navigating, through the RSA hierarchy, the relationship there. Besides Dr. Bronner, there's other people we have to report to and his boards, and helping me understand that. He was just a great transition. But our CFO retired. A lot of those guys have been with us from day one, and we're 33 years old now. So we've kind of had to evolve the entire corporate staff, and then our what we call our executive team below the corporate executives is our director of office and maintenance. And we have such good leadership at the sites. And it just kind of filters down. They take the message back. We do one kind of annual. I mean, it's tough to get the groups together when you're open every day for Christmas, and we're busy really year round to get your management team together. So kind of once a year, we'll get as many managers as we can. We just did it 3 weeks ago in Prattville in the middle of the state. So, kind of shorten it up for Huntsville and Mobile. And I was fortunate to get Dr. Bronner to speak to the entire management team. We had about 95 people there that day. He's gotten a little older. He's not traveling quite as much. So a lot of people see his video during the onboarding process and hear his passion. But I was like, Doc, would you be willing to do it? Because I just wanted to hear from him. He is so passionate when he talks about the vision, the original vision, but how important we are to the state of Alabama and to economic development and, still the perception of the state. We would not have Hyundai. We would not have all the suppliers if the trail wasn't there. I mean, there's a reason that they're just south of Montgomery. You've got, 54 holes in Prattville. You got 54 in Auburn and 27 in Greenville. There's 135 holes within an hour and 10 minutes of the deal. And when they were flying them into Prattville at the presidential cottage, we had a helipad there, and they fly in and stay, and they centered there because of golf. And then out of that, you get all the tier 1, 2 suppliers, and now they've got Hyundai Heavy, the other plant they've built. And the Kia plant is where it is. And, so when you start telling the story of the trail and the success, you can talk about return on investment just from a trail perspective, but you can't limit it there. I mean, the property, look at the Ross Bridge development itself, the homes and lodging taxes, sales tax, property taxes, job creation, not just, the hotels were born out of the success of the trail, right? I mean, we had people come from everywhere, and Dr. Bronner's like, it's nice that they can stay at the local Holiday Inn or the Hampton Inn or the Howard Johnson's, whatever we had, but it's like, we need world-class hotels if they're going to play world-class golf. So he had the hotel vision and, brought the Battle House back to life and the Riverview, and got conference centers and conventions. And it spiraled into this one big economic development engine, which was his original vision. And, you drive through downtown Montgomery now and see everything with the green roof and, the trust in him to help finance and build the State House and that convention center down there. I don't know if the biscuits would be down there if it wasn't for Dr. Bronner and everything that the city, what would the city be like without the RSA downtown? So he's done wonders for this state and cares about it so much. But the way he was able to explain that to our team, and they just feed off of it. And I wanted some supports like, hey, when I come and I'm beating you up about the first impression of the parkway and trashing the parking lot and divots. Dr. Bronner played my site for 13 and a half years. Every time he played, I got a note, right? And it was, hey, you got to move the ropes on number 7 the cart traffic's wearing it out, or the big fairway bunker on one of the legislators only had one rake, or, there's poison ivy on the trees between these two holes. I mean, and you know what? He was never wrong. And he didn't nitpick me. It was never done in a negative way. It was like, it's because he cared so damn much. Like, he wanted it to be perfect. And he does. Like, I mean, I was always worried about the little thing. Are the windows clean? Are there, if you play golf with him, you're going through 8 buckets of sand. You're filling divots and you're picking up trash and cigarette butts. So he told a story to the guys, and I'd heard it before being in Prattville, but Will Fisher's there now, and you guys know Will. Will was my head pro, so when I left, I moved him down there. He knew the animal that Capitol Hill is and was a great fit, and had been around Dr. Bronner a lot. So, you got the pressure of having him every week playing there. It's his home course. And Will's preaching to his team about cigarette butts, and his backdrop guys, well, damn, Doc's his cart's the worst. When he comes off the golf course, it's got more cigarette butts and shit. He goes, that's all the stuff, because that's everything he's picking up. Plus, he's not smoking that much. It's all the cigarette butts he's picking up while he's on the course. But that culture has to be filtered down through every employee that works for us, that we don't want you to see any trash on the golf course. And when it's a windy day and you're busy 600 around, it's going to blow out of the carts. But, if a marshal drives by it or a maintenance guy drives by and doesn't pick it up, we're going to say something to him, And it was just good for him that they heard it from him. Like, that's my boss. Do you understand where I'm coming from? Because I've heard it for 20 years, and it is. Those are small things, but they're huge things. They're just. I remember early on, my first year or two, I don't think he knew my name. Prattville was a director guy. I'd walk down the steps with him, and he's like, I remember one time he's like, take care of my baby. Yes, sir, absolutely. But his love for the state and the game of golf and the trail is unmeasured.
That's a lot of pressure to come to a site and knowing that the Grand Poobah is playing there as much as he can.
Well, it just trains you, and really, I mean, if you do what you're supposed to on a daily basis, you don't worry about it, and that's what we did. I was used to having him. So he was always respectful. I don't know, in 13, maybe one time he came out that I didn't know about. I'm not even sure that happened. Generally he made tee times, and I knew he was coming. But you can't put makeup on a pig. You have to do it constantly. And if you're just doing what you're supposed to on a daily basis, and he didn't want it done for him, that's the thing. It's done for everyone else. It's done for every trail card holder. It's done for the 400,000 retirees that we represent and try to contribute to. And these are truly assets of the retirement. So we have to treat them that way. We have to, my job is to manage them and keep them at the standard that he expects and that the retirees expect. And if we do that, then the good things happen. And, I think that is what we're seeing. I think we're seeing years of culture and commitment from him and good people. And it's, golf is doing well, and we've been able to kind of grow a little faster because of his commitment.
Yeah. Mike, we're a golf-centric Alabama podcast. We want to tell the stories of things going on in Alabama and the people and places. And so that's our mission, telling those stories. But with that, we've been downloaded in every state and over 45 countries so far.
That's
and
amazing.
So anybody that's
you've had a great list of guests, I can tell you that.
Well,
not counting me. I mean, I went back through. I was like, who else have they had on? I was like, oh man, I'm following some. You've had some really strong guests, and that just credit to you guys.
Well, thank you very much. We appreciate it, and we've got some more lined up, some pretty good ones. But I felt like it was a good place to dovetail into a question where someone planning their first Robert Trent Jones trip, what would you suggest to them to do it in the right way?
You should come first month and play all 26 golf courses. That's what I think for their first trip. Why would y'all? I tell you what, they would truly appreciate it because it is so unique and different. Yeah. But I don't know that you can go wrong. And I say that because I would say right now, we're in the best conditions we've ever had. So part of, I told you Ricky Huey retired, who was a genius. And, I was so worried when Ricky left because he managed construction and from the start, right? I mean, he knows where every body's buried, every pipe has been fixed, how do you replace that knowledge? And he had a great plan. So I don't know if you know Scott Dixie with Southeastern Golf. He's has done work for us since 1992. but he's one of 26 certified golf course builders in the world out of Tifton. And he and Ricky had worked together for years, and he's always done trail work. But Scott's gotten to a point here, he just built the Macklemore Club, and he's built golf courses all over the world. And had always done work for us. And he was kind of phasing into maybe stage one of his retirement. So he's kind of scaled back his business and kept a key crew, and he's only working for us now. So he's managing our construction, and to have that knowledge, and they traveled for a year and went through every hole on the trail and talked about every site. So again, that transition, and I can't thank Ricky enough for what he did, but also in bringing Scott to the table and leading that, because it's really been seamless. Because Scott knew all my guys already, the directors of maintenance, but he knew the properties to a degree, and then spending that extra time with Ricky that year has been phenomenal. And the other side of that was, I guess, about 3.5 years ago now, when Ricky told me he was leaving, we decided to split his job. He had too much on his plate. He was managing agronomy and construction. And, you got 468 holes at one point, and we're 450 now. But how do you do that? You do a renovation every year. Like, it was very hard. So we had great superintendents, and Ricky gave him a lot of freedom, but we decided to kind of split his role into two and let him focus on construction through the Ross Bridge deal until he left. Magnolia Grove, Ross Bridge, and we've done Oxmoor and Grand National since 19. We've done a lot, and he was really starting to focus on that. And then we brought Craig Walsh in as our VP of agronomy, and Craig's just been a great addition because he came from Champions Retreat in Augusta, where they play the women's AM the first 2 days before they go over to Augusta National. And Craig is widely known for his ultra dwarf Bermuda greens and knowledge, and had worked at the Golf Club of Georgia with Randy Waldron out at Lakewood years ago. So they had a relationship. But Craig was widely touted to us. So he made it through the interview process. We hired him, and just having a guy that's solely focused on agronomic plans and conditions, riding the trail is, my challenge to him is I thought we were good, but I didn't think we were as good as we could be. I wanted more consistency between green speeds from site to site. And I wanted our weed pressure, like this time of year, even like your yards, right? It's the worst time of year. The only thing growing is weeds. Your Bermuda grass is always just still dormant. And if anything's green popping up in that, it's a weed, and, it would show its head. Well, the thing is, we're hitting our peak season next week. Our rates go up. You got to be really good in March. Why it's kind of ugly. So I just riding the shoals yesterday, and I rode the Highlands course this morning with Robert Edmondson here. Our director is awesome. By far the best I've seen it ever this time of year. Like, as good as we are right now, and Bermuda's not even growing. I mean, we've invested more in overseeding, like for the spring customer. Your rates are high, so it's like we got to have good fairways. So we took our rate of seed up from like 380 pounds an acre to 600. Just to try to clean everything up, suppress some of the POA, which you can't win against, but you can, if you get a really healthy stand of ryegrass, just kind of mask it in. Craig's pre-emerge plan has really cut that back a lot too. So it's just like, I was so proud of just what I'm seeing out there from fairway to green. And Robert just had Sanford's tournament this Monday, Tuesday, and we had a couple of bunkers closed. They had ground under repair, and he's like, man, they didn't care. They were happy. I imagine the players were happy I could drop out of it and hit a pitch shot, or instead of hitting a fairway bunker shot, they didn't have to do that. But he said the reviews on the greens, like they played 6 tournaments or something already. He's like, these are by far the best bent grass greens they've seen, and the fairways are best I've seen in my 6 years traveling the trail up here. So it's just good to see that continued progress. And I think Craig brought us to another level, which goes hand in hand with trying to grow the rates. I'm increasing the rates after we do renovations because they're not cheap, and we need to make more money when we do those. And of course, inflation's gone up, right? And I'm trying to raise wages. So it all goes hand in. But when you raise rates, customers' expectations go up, right? The conditions have to support that, because if they come and it ain't good, they don't come back. And word spreads quickly. And so I'm just proud of the progress we've made. Craig made a huge difference. Him and Scott Vesey working together have been good, and it's just been a seamless transition from Ricky into that, and still going in the right direction. So,
how do you decide which courses are getting renovated when? I know the judge is closed now for till the fall, doing some renovations, and you did. Let's see, legislator was closed last year. So what's the thought process into that?
Well, we actually sat down last week, and one of my goals, we've kind of had a master plan in our heads, but I don't want it in my head. I want it on paper. So I'm a spreadsheet guy, and our CFO is Excelicus, so is his nickname. So I just want it I told him with 26 properties and clubhouses and irrigations and pump stations and parking lots and roofs, it's a big capital ongoing commitment because everything has a lifespan. A roof has a lifespan. I think we replaced every roof on the clubhouses in 2005, and now they're all 20, 21, 22 years old. So we started last year replacing, and I present the budgets and the capital requests to the RSA, and they have to approve them. But I was like, I want a long-term master plan, like a 30-year plan. And the initial start is let's just put it on the calendar. So Bermuda greens, 20 to 25-year lifespan, right? So minimum you should get 20 if you're doing a really good job managing your organic material under the surface and not having too many mutations. You can possibly get 25, and there's a lot of variables, right? You got climate, a big difference between north to south in the state, all those things. So I said, well, let's just start and put it on the calendar at 20 years. Start with greens. When we do bunkers, these new capillary bunkers, you can probably get 15 years out of them if you manage the sand levels, right? So you're not getting into the concrete underneath and cracking it. So some bunkers are overdue. So let's just put everything on the calendar, and then going through the clubhouses and on-course restrooms, and then you get into irrigation systems and pumps. It's a lot. So I was like, I just want it all on a spreadsheet, and then we can filter it by year, by site. And then once we get it there, we're going to have to kind of massage things back and forth because, in 2011, you remember the tornado hit Tuscaloosa and wiped out Silver Lakes pretty badly. We were going to do 9 holes that year. We were converting, I think, 4 sites that year from bent grass to champion. We did the lake course at Grand National, the Capitol Hill, the Senator. We did the river course up here in Huntsville, and we were going to do one of the 9s there and do the 9 the next year and a 9 the next year. And then when the tornado hit, Dr. Bronner was like, well, we're going to be closed cleaning up for months. I mean, we lost our maintenance building and everything. The damage was substantial. We just decided to do them all that year and then reopen with all new green. So now, that's 20 years. It'll be 2031. Well, that's only 5 years. Right? So I can't do 6 sets of greens in 1 year now. We're too busy, and you lose. You're always displacing revenue. So that's a conversation. So it's like, okay, well, I don't want to get into too many conversations. Let's just put it on the big board, and then let's have the conversation about business. Let's have the conversation about the mutations and the organic material. That's going to tell us which one might have to slide a year too early, which one we can push back. And then there's always the economics, right? Who knows with what happened in Iran in the last week, right? The economy can change shiftly, and it's cash flow conversations. Can we afford to do it, not to do it? And it's the owner's decision. All we can do, and that's what I want. Dr. Bronner's just turned 81. He's not always going to be there. So whoever, I want to show them that here's what's coming, just based off of age. Right? It's just like your house, your roof age, your kitchen's got to be remodeled. All these things, it just never stops. And here's what's coming down the train tracks, and we just have to have a plan. And that's my job. It's like, hey, we're looking ahead, we're planning ahead. I'm going to present it to you. You approve the budget, and hey, we can do all this, or we can't do all of that this year, but we can do. Give me the amount of money you want, and we'll prioritize it and push it back or push it ahead. And Ross Bridge was kind of that. It was probably 2 years away from being 20 years old, and it was unfortunate what happened there, but it sped the timeline up. The bad thing was we didn't plan. Obviously when we plan these things, we block the golf course in advance, and there we had to close and notify customers and hotel customers, and it was not a good scenario. But again, we're blessed to have an owner that hey, we're going to do the right thing by our customers. Fortunately, again, we had a trail. We moved a lot of play internally. We tried to retain all the hotel business. I think we did a great job of that. Luckily, we had Oxmoor right next door. We were able to move a lot of it there in advance and take care of our customers. And then, it's like Dr. Bronner, we're moving the greens up a couple years. So, this was going to happen in a couple years. But I said, the bunkers aren't far behind. Can we go ahead and do the bunkers while we're closed so we don't have to do it 3 years from now, after we reopen, then we got to do a bunker renovation, which you can do during play, but it's still an obstacle to play around. And, the size of those bunkers are massive too. And I was like, I really think we should, if you approve it, I'd like to do it now. And he's like, I agree. So, it was nice to have that support and get it. And then, since we've reopened, I mean, I think the most we'd ever played was 32,000 rounds there. And last year we played 41,700 rounds at Ross Bridge, which is almost too many on 18 holes. So, we raised the rates again on packages. I guess I am trying to push a little bit of play down, but maximize revenue. If you could do a couple thousand rounds less and make the same amount of revenue or a little more, that's a win, because to keep that product at a high level, the more foot traffic, the less time you have to spray that massive property, mow it, top dress it, and keep the greens really, really good. So, but the beauty of that is you see that the money you put in the golf course is just paying for itself. The product's better, the greens are better. We moved some cart paths. That was one of the challenges there, is how far they were from some of the tees and greens and the walks. We couldn't move them all, but we addressed 3 or 4 holes that were probably the worst. And in the end, we came up with a better product. Raised the bottom of some of the bunkers so they're not so deep and a little more playable, things like that. So we've tried to do that with every renovation, like we did it last year on the legislature. The guys have been down, but I think it's a more playable product. The beauty of the trails, they're so long and they're challenging. We can make them as hard as we want. Like, hey, you've got Corn Ferry qualifying up in a month. Well, I can grow the rough up, tighten the fairways in a little bit with mowing patterns, and really speed the greens up through firmness and rolling. I can make it hard in a month, right, for that. But that's not who our customer is the other 360 days a year. It's the trail card holders, and it's our travel play, and I want them to have a good experience and a good pace of play. And one thing Clyde Johnston is who we work with on our redesign now, and Clyde's phenomenal and was a good player. And he's Clyde's 70, I think 70, 71 now. So like Dr. Bronner's experience has changed because of his age, and he doesn't hit it as far. And I think it's kind of opened his eyes, like, man, these are really hard golf courses when you don't hit it high, right? And so, things we're doing is like trying to open up some approaches, soften a couple of the really difficult greens. There were 3 or 4 in the legislature that we rebuilt last year. We didn't just regrass, we refloated the greens, reconstructed, and it was all the way tear down, rebuilt, just to make them a little more playable and improve the experience. I think we achieved that. I think it's really good. Doc loved it, and we're kind of doing the same on the Judge now. You guys have played the Judge. It's a hard golf course, and there's probably 5 to 6 greens we're doing some major work on, and it's still going to be a hard golf. I can't move the river and the island greens and the swamps and things that are challenging, and you got water in play on 14 holes. But how can we make those approaches a little more playable? Maybe lower the green just slightly, move some dirt in. Some of the approaches, there's an approach there, but there's a mound or a deflection point that's actually kicking the ball away from the green, not allowing it to bounce onto the green. I'm like, listen, man, I need to get this older guy on the putting surface. Let's just get a putter in his hand. He may not be able to go to that back right hole location that's over a bunker, but he can at least get it on the front of the green and get a putter in his hand. And that'll speed up play, and I think, improve their experience.
It's a little departure from the original Dr. Bronner, who wanted them as hard as they could be. I think that was the story was he was playing PGA West, and people were just throwing money to play this hard golf course, and he wanted that from the courses down here.
Yeah, he does. And people remember the hard. That was one thing. And I was like, well, I always like them to come off 18 happy and have a beer and buy a shirt. If they're too mad to slam their trunk, they're not going to do that. But it's worked, definitely. We're ahead of the curve on the yardage game. Who would have known that you need 8,000 yard golf courses 33 years ago, right? It's we've got Ross Bridge. We've got 2 of the, I think it's 13 or 14 now. That there was one that opened recently, and the other one at the Shoals, Schoolmaster, I think is only 22 yards below. We've got several at 78. So, we can host anything on a lot of our golf courses, but that's the beauty. We've got 6 to 7 tee boxes on a lot of holes, and that's answering your question. I don't think I did a good job. I rambled about the experience. I don't think you can go wrong anywhere. I think if you hover around the Center State Grand National, Prattville, Ross Bridge, Oxmoor. You can get from one site to another in an hour and a half, and play multiple sites and really get a really good feel of the difference. What a great site Grand National is with the lake over there, and then Capitol Hill's 3 golf courses. I mean, I'm a little biased because I was there for so long, but 3 distinctly different golf courses at one site. Like, a lot of times when you get a designer, they have an architectural style in their greens and their bunker complexes. You see a lot of holes. You don't have that there. The golf courses, the topography is so different. And then you go up to Ross Bridge. What a massive property, and waterfalls, and Oxmoor, the ridge and the valley are distinctly different. Like in the backyard, like I think you could hit that middle part of the state and go hour and a half, see 4 sites and see the gamut of what Alabama and the trail has to offer. But yeah, it's we just keep trying to get better.
I think y'all have done a terrific job. The experience is so good, and again, when you put your full rate against these other properties that have opened recently, the Stream Songs, the Abandoned Dunes, you're getting so much value for your buck when you come down and then play the trail.
Yeah, and really from a travel perspective, when we do our competitive market analysis, so yeah, we're looking locally. We have 2 customers. Like I said, our local customer, but the trail card is such a great value because these are world-class golf. Sometimes I'm like, do you guys really understand how good your golf courses are? When I go down to the PGA show, I'll play once or twice in January and go to other places down there charging, again, way more than we are. And I was like, man, we're way better than these places. And to have this in your backyard, I think is great. And, you look at the number of young golfers that grew up, Will Cannon, Robbie Shelton, like all these guys grew up playing the trail, our junior tour, before we merged it with the SJGT. If you can play these golf courses as a junior, you can play anywhere. Yeah, so they really develop your game. But our whole mission is to lift and elevate the state. But I think hopefully the other golf courses in the state realize that we're putting eyes on them too. When people come down here, they're like, we get asked a lot, hey, I've been coming to the trail. Is there anything else we can play around this trail? Yeah, man. If you haven't played Farm Links or Timberline, if you're going from Prattville there and you want to stop and spin I'm not going to give them a bad experience, but I have confidence. Those are phenomenal facilities as well. So we're, again, that rising tide lifts all boats. I hope we're elevating golf in Alabama as a whole. And the fact now that, we're hosting all 3 stages of PGA Tour qualifying and have for 8 years, that you can go pre-qualifier, stage 1, stage 2. You can get your basically Korn Ferry status playing in the state of Alabama. And then you get into Q School finals and an opportunity to get your tour card just by playing the trail. That's an amazing story. But we're also hosting LPGA Q School finals. We just did a qualifier for the European Challenge Tour in Dothan last week. And then, we do the Tour Americas qualifier in Dothan as well. So Dothan, a few years ago, Dothan, Alabama, we had Tour Americas qualifier, right? We had a Korn Ferry qualifier and an LPGA Q School final in Dothan, Alabama in 1 year. Like, who hosts 3 world-class qualifiers? And the fact that we're doing these things in the state and still bringing an Epson Tour event. We'd still love to do a tour event, get back on television. But, finding a title sponsor is difficult. And the price of hosting an event now with these signature events, and the cost is elevated. And if you want to get it on TV, that doubles it. Yeah. It's not an inexpensive ask. So, yeah, if you know anybody that wants to sponsor it, we'll host it.
Yeah. I think too, one thing that I've enjoyed about the trail is you guys host the high school golf championships around the state. You support the youth on course initiatives. You're getting those next generation of players to your sites.
Well, it's funny you mentioned the Professional of the Year award. I really didn't want to answer that because I'm not big into the individual stuff, but no one on the trail ever won it, which I thought was not good. I mean, we've been here for 33 years now, and I know there was some pushback when it first opened, the state entity competing with private. Yes, but I think we're beyond that now, and I really wanted to respond to shine light on what the trail does as a whole, not me individually. Like, I'm just lucky enough to represent the trail and have some of these relationships in the tour because of what Dr. Bronner built and John Cannon negotiated, and I'm just continuing it, right? But yeah, I mean, I've been on the board of the youth course since the first day, and I think we host probably 80 to 85% of the rounds in the state. The kids can play golf for $5, space available. We did PGA Hope last year at 7 locations with veterans across the state. That was our first year doing that. And I think we're doing 8 of the 7 of the 10, 8 of 7 of the 11. I was trying to do it everywhere, but their budget didn't allow us to do it at all 10 sites. But with our military presence here in this state and how Dr. Bronner's strong feelings about that, I was like, man, we should have done this a long time ago. What a great program they have. We've hosted the high school championships, gosh, I think every year. I know since we've been built just about for very little money. We are going to change the format this year instead of trying to do it all at one site. It's just too big. I mean, you got 228 players, 7 classes, and then with parents, grandparents, it's over 1,000 people. And if you have any weather, you can't finish, which happened again last year. So we met with them. We're going to divide it into classes because I looked around the Southeast, Florida, Louisiana. Everyone does it differently. And some sites just do 1A boys at a site. And I was like, well, we decided to do 1A to 3A as a group. And that was about 67 players, boys and girls. I thought it was important to keep the boys and girls together for a parent that may have a boy on one side and a girl on the other. So they're not splitting that up. And then, some of the smaller schools may have one coach for 2 teams. And, that keeps that together. And then 4A and 5A will be at a site. And that will be about the same, 60, I think it was 67, 68 players last year. And then 6A, 7A was about 84 players. And we're going to do that in Mobile this year. But that will allow it to move and have 3 separate events. And if you do have an hour delay, hopefully you can still finish 2 rounds and not play 27 holes. You want to play 36 holes. It's the state championship. And I think it'll be a better experience for all the players and the parents as well. It's just when you get a rain delay and you got 1,000 people trying to come into the dining room and the clubhouse, you just can't facilitate it. It's just too much. And the parking, they're going down the roads and you get safety issues. And I think it's a little bit overdue. But I think overall it's going to be a phenomenal experience and better for everyone involved, players, coaches, and for us.
Yeah.
So, but yeah. One thing going preparing for that, I've noticed like we host 54 high schools where they're home course, 24 universities, 5 middle schools, and then we've got a junior trail card. And we try to do a golf, and it's like I don't think John was such a humble man. If you know him, we didn't pound our chest, and I'm not trying to pound it, but I also want to let people know that we do a lot for golf in Alabama, and we try to do a lot for junior golf and for veterans, and then and then I didn't even really get into the number of charity events that we're a part of because, we help the communities by hosting events that give back. And we try to give the best price we can, but we're a business and my job is to make money for retirees. So we try to steer them. My job is to show them how to make money. Like I think a lot of them nonprofit wise, they want the lowest price. It's like, no, let me show you how to get sponsorships and how to make the biggest bang for your buck and get the most out of your event. And that's what we try to teach them. And I think when you have them on quality golf courses, you can ask more, you can make more. And if they have a better experience, there's lots of competition for events. And if you're not doing good prizes and you have poor food and no tea gifts, and the guy wins it and he gets a $10 gift card or a sleeve of, they're not going to play in that event next year. They're going to play in a different event because they've got choices. So you just kind of have to help them and see that big picture, and I think we do a good job of that as well.
What's the future of the trail hold?
Gosh, I don't know. Hopefully continued growth. Our fiscal year starts in October. We had I think it was our 4th record first quarter in a row, which was phenomenal. October, November, December. The weather in January and February has been a little iffy. I think we're actually going to exceed budget because the days that it's been good, we are still signs are positive. Our package pre-books for spring, summer, and fall are ahead of last year, which was a record year. So there's still a lot of positive signs. And then going to the PGA show and National Golf Course Owners meetings and a few of the analytical things that I subscribe to, they see a sustained run for golf, which is good. There's a lot of positive signs. So hopefully this continues and just allows us to keep doing what we're doing now. Hopefully it allows us to pay our people more. It allows us to keep improving the golf courses and growing the game of golf. And right now we don't see a negative sign of that. I've gotten to where every Friday I kind of do my look in the mirror, right, where we're comparing where were we a year ago on golf packages. We're ahead of behind pace, because it's got to flatten out a little bit. You had 28 years of history, and you've had this amazing 5-6 year run. But the fact that we've been able to raise rates and they're still coming, and what I've seen this year is they're booking earlier. That each season has got off to a really fast start. And I was like, well, no way we're going to stay 25% ahead, but they know that the demand for the tee times is there, and if you're wanting to play 36 holes, you better book, and that's a really good sign. So no signs behind. We're going to continue to do some renovation. I don't think we'll probably do any real renovation closures the next year or two. I'd like to have our whole portfolio available. We'll continue to do like bunker work we can do without closing. One of the big things that you guys have seen it, like shoals, not only bunkers, but a lot of tree work around the cart paths. They tend to overgrow. 25 years they're hanging over, and you start to lose turf inside the cart paths, and they break cart paths. So whether it's thinning or lifting that canopy and then resodding underneath it, and that really cleans the property up. We want to kind of focus on those couple of things for the next couple of years, and then probably 28, 29, we'll get back into some green renovation.
Great.
Well, Mike, the hour has flown by, and I've really enjoyed hearing you share things about the trail and your passion for the trail and what you guys are doing. And I just appreciate you stopping in and sharing some of that with us on the car barn.
Yeah, well, thank you guys for covering golf and talking about it. We need as much of it as we can get and focusing on the trail. And I loved your guests. Like, I saw that Alabama theme through it, because it's amazing what we have in golf in Alabama. Like, there's been so many good players, great stories, and we have a rich history there's a lot of good players on tour, right? They either from Alabama or they've went to school at Alabama or Auburn. And I encourage people to look into that and follow it and listen to your show. It's amazing. I appreciate you wearing our brand on your hat. We were talking about franchises earlier, and I tell people it's a brand, because I went to Pebble Beach with the National Golf Course Owners meeting, and one of our vendors, the vendors are out there, and they took a few of us to dinner, and we go into the chart house right next door to the hotel in Monterey. And I'm with a guy from TPC, that's running their golf courses or whatever. And the first guy I see in the bar has got a Trail rain jacket on. And don't think I wasn't elbowing him on it. It's like, look at that logo. It's not TPC. That's Robert Trent Jones Golf Trail in Monterey, California. And then I went up to the clubhouse at the Tigers little par 3 of the Hay, and the putting green's right next to the check-in. And the first golf bag I see, golf towel's got a Trail golf towel on it. So that's awesome that, you can wear that logo on a plane or through an airport. People know about the Robert Trent Jones Golf Trail, and that's kudos to Dr. Bronner's vision and that logo and really marketing it as a brand. So it's been phenomenal. But I really appreciate you guys talking about us and allowing me to talk about the trail. Thank you.
Great. We appreciate it, and we'll get you back on to give some really good inside stories of the inner workings of the trail.
Yeah, anytime. That'd be great.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you. Thanks again.
All right. Chris, Gregg, thanks so much.
That was a really interesting conversation with Mike Beverly. When you step back and hear everything that goes into running the trail, the operations, the reinvestment, the vision, it really gives you a different appreciation for what's been built here in Alabama.
Yeah, Gregg, it really does. And when you look at the impact of the Robert Trent Jones Golf Trail and what it's had on tourism and golf in the state, it's hard to overstate how important it's been.
No doubt. And, if you've never made a trip to play the trail, or if you've never gotten around the different sites in the state to play, it's really something every serious golfer should try to get down and experience.
Yeah. And if you've enjoyed this episode, make sure you subscribe and share the Cart Barn with a fellow golfer. Until next week, we'll catch you again on the Cart Barn Podcast.